So hello and welcome to this week's angling blog. This week you join me back on the banks of the beautiful River Weaver. We're in search of silvers and hopefully Mr. Bream on the float and on the feeder. So before we do get into the blog, I just want to say two huge thank yous. Number one, to you guys who watch the videos on the channel, leave the support, leave all the comments and enjoy watching the videos. It really is appreciated. Number two thank you is to Mr. Gary Williams and Mitzi, without which this week's blog just wouldn't have happened. To say the past week's been a bit of a challenge would be an understatement. When you see me catch that 20-pound carp, I went home that evening, we had a call in the early hours that sadly one of our close family members was going to pass away. As you can imagine, that is quite a tough thing to go through, but to add insult to injury, I come back through to drop the kids off so I could be back by my partner's side, who was with the close family member, and a group of youth decided to break into my car and have completely wrecked the ignition. So there was no way I was getting bankside this weekend without Gary. So please, down below is his channel. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met on the bank, really kind, and please go and show his channel some love and leave a comment on his video that you've come from my channel. Back to today's fishing. The first thing I did when I arrived on the peg was mix the ground bait up, and I've gone with that Hinder's Supercharged Black again. There's a bit of pellet in there and hemp, and I've binded it together with some crumb. With the boat just going past behind, let's waste no time at all. Let's have a look at the setup, how we're going to approach it, and the swim we're going to fish. So a different peg than the previous blogs, and what a view that is. As you can see, the boat's just gone through. The plan today is to fish the stick float on this inside line down here. There is a bit of pace and we can't go too far, so I am planning on just fishing rod tip. Looking at the side tray, we've got plenty of red maggot, we've got some casters and hemp, and feels good to have the Hinder's hemp back in stock, so head on over. We've got plenty of worm. We'll be trying that down the inside and hoping that Mr. Perch is about. Good old sweet corn. And in this one I've mixed a bit of the ground bait together, and I've got quite a rich mix, and that's to mix up 3 big balls of ground bait to feed on that swim to begin with. The neat mix there, as you can see, I've mixed up 2, not as rich balls to put in, but like I say at the start, you want to make sure there's no snag before you put any of that in. So the setup for today, I'm out with my brand new 13-foot Amiga rod from Cordham, and look at that, for a brand new reel. The switch, brand new line on it as well. I thought I'd cheer myself up. Down to the business end, we've got a 1.6 gram glide float. We've got a bulk shot of Dinsmore weight, and we're going nice and positive with a size 12 hook, because we're going to be using some quite positive baits on that line. And I am literally just going to start rod tip. Been feeding a bit of hemp and caster just in line with my keep net there, and I am just planning on going under my feet. There is a little bit of a ledge and then it drops out. So we haven't got too much to work with, and there is a bit of flow on. But I'm sure if we put a ground bait round about in line with the keep net and then just run this float over the top is the plan. And hopefully we can pick up a few fish. I'm sure we'll pick up Mr. Roach and Mr. Chubblet. And it does look perchy down here, doesn't it, with all this bramble. But in these early stages it is just about going over and making sure the bottom's clear before you put some of that ground bait in. There we go, the first one of the day, just on a small piece of worm. It's keeping close to the edge. It is a perch. It is the target species down there on a little piece of worm. So it shows we can catch fish on that short run. And always good to get an early bite, a lovely little perch. You see the piece of worm in his mouth. And yeah, in these early stages, just about making sure that bottom's clear, and a bite really is a bonus. There we go, there's another one. There must be loads of them little fish down there just pecking at that worm. Nice little roach. After a bit of a hard week, it's just good to be out on the bank. To be catching fish is a bonus. And one thing about the fish in the Weaver at the moment, they're in lovely condition. Look at that for a lovely plump roach. So it would be an excellent place to bring the kids really, and I am going to bring Joshy on here again with the whip, because it's not too fast that they're going to struggle. It is deep under your feet, but it is nice easy fishing, putting your hemp and caster there and just going through with 3 those red maggots. You see there. Here's a bite of chuck, and all the time while I'm doing this I'm just trying to visualize a a place in the swim where I want to put that ground bait in a minute. That float's just going through nicely. Holding back. There we go. That is looking like the sweet spot on the line. Be interesting today to see whether them bream will come that close in though. Just a case of holding that float back a little. That's why I've gone with a slightly heavier stick float, just so we can hold it back a bit and control it. There we go. Right on top of that hempen caster. That's a slightly better one. So I'm going to be introducing around about 5 balls of ground bait. 3 of them are going to be really rich like that one. You can see there's worm, hemp, caster, bit of sweet corn in there as well. Nice and positive. And 2 of them are going to be, like you can see on screen now, quite neutral. What that's going to do is going to put plenty of bait in the swim on the bottom where we're targeting them. So just putting them balls of ground bait in over a bit of an area, not too far out, but on that line, just that we're going down at the rod tip. So even with all that bait put in, it's really hard to get through these little ones. The river must be absolutely paved with them. And if there's not already better quality roach in the river, you know, upwards of a pound, them type of quality stamp roach, then in years to come there's definitely going to be. At the moment there's no getting past these guys. You can see they've gone up to half a worm. So greedy, but like I say, great fun. And in amongst them there is the slightly better quality ones. It's a lovely little roach. So every other cast I'm just putting a nugget of the ground bait in. That rich ground bait with the hemp and the corn. What that's going to do is just get down to the bottom hopefully and just keep the fish on the bottom. Then better quality ones will normally be in them lower layers. With river fishing it is all about patience and building the swim, and it's great to see one of these little skimmers or pommies appear in the swim. And as the food's going in and the swim's building, we're starting to see 1 or 2 better quality fish now. It's a golden lovely rod. So much variety now in this little bit of paradise on the Weaver. Are small fish, but it's definitely better quality roach to be targeted, maybe on hempen tears. It's all about putting them little pieces of jigsaw together. So we're still getting them dumpy roach you can see on screen now, but despite that I'm just going to continue to be positive. I'm going to go in with 3 more big balls of ground bait. Really positive today. I said I don't think you're going to kill the swim with them small fish. And you've got to try and get that food down for them better quality ones if they arrive. It's so good to see a river so healthy. From a river that was polluted, that had no fishing as a kid, to trying not to catch the smaller ones. Kept feeding that ground bait and the balls of ground bait, and I was on the verge of thinking it's not going to happen because I've tried everything to get the better quality fish today. And it's probably about 2 hours, 2.5 hours into the fishing, that float's buried, and finally we've hooked into a better bream. The bubbles have been there, but getting through to them has been hard. A proper bream in the net, and boy have we worked for it, most definitely. And one thing that has shocked me today is we've not had any troublet, considering how many we've had on the other blogs in the area. Fed a bit of bait on that inside line. I grabbed the phase 1 feeder rod and just had a few casts down the middle, and it's taken about 5 or 6 and we're into the first bream. And that is the beauty of when you kind of work out a venue and the options available. Resting the swim down here for a bit, you can just pick up a feeder rod and know that there should be 1 or 2 bream down the middle. The very next cast into another, and a nice way to break up the float fishing, another one of those bronze bream. So while we're waiting for that tip to go around on the phase 1, if that is a video you'd like to see me come and do on here, you know, with this rod, you know, a 30 quid rod, and come and see how many fish we can actually catch on it on a normal day's feeder fishing, then leave a comment down below and it's a video we can come out and do on one of the sessions. I mean, 3 bites in 3 casts, it's going to be a hard decision to go down and catch them roach underneath my feet again, but I really do want to try and end with a bream on the float. But it's going to be mega hard making that decision. There's definitely 1 or 2 of them bream down the middle track. And to the regulars on the channel, it's probably becoming obvious I really am enjoying my feeder fishing for these bream. It's amazing how fishing takes you on them journeys, isn't it? You know, each year a different adventure, and you find yourself doing different things. Never did imagine it'd be this year on here fishing for bream. And the quality fish today really have been down the middle. You know, that's the 4th bream that we've had, I think, in short succession. So with the rain coming down, we've eventually hooked into decent bream underneath our feet. Hooked him right down there. Just been sitting on a piece of worm over depth. And the silvers, the roach seem to have disappeared. And finally these guys have moved in and we've picked up one. Stuck at it today. I'm resting that inside line. It's just allowed maybe 1 or 2 to settle. And as an angler, as I've got older, patience is something that has definitely become part of my angling. And just persevering with it today, keeping that bait going in. Definitely 1 or 2 arrive now under my feet. I must admit, getting them on the float does do it for me. I've enjoyed fishing the feeder, but you can't beat catching these on the rod tip. And like I said at the start, in work I imagine we'd get a few roach, maybe a few chub, put a bit of ground bait in and then bream would arrive. I didn't think it would take nearly all day for it to happen. But yeah, there's definitely 1 or 2 now. Just coming underneath my feet, we're literally hooking them where that float is there now. Rod tip, balling that ground bait in, and just sitting on that worm. That's not a bad fish, is it, to catch at the rod tip? A lovely river weaver bream. Immaculate condition. So as you can see from the net on screen, a thoroughly enjoyable day on the bank with plenty of those bream turning up. All that remains is for me to wish you all tight lines in your own fishing. Thank you for the support you show the channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.